Welcome to this episode of Local Break, where we break away from breaking news to bring you the latest in entertainment and lifestyle in Mzansi. This week we've got interesting chats with interesting guests, including South African music award winner Pilani Bubu, South African fashion designers Thula Sindi and Maria McCloy, and artist and curator Bronwyn Lace, who chats to us about how South African artists are coping during this pandemic, their value chain in South Africa, and what the artscape might look like post COVID-19. It's going to be a good one, so stick around. Opinion, what do awards like the SAMAs mean to you? Like, do they make a difference?
Well, I mean, they should. We operate within an industry, and that industry is, if we didn't think it was important to us, we wouldn't engage in it. And I, as a South African, care that, at least the work that I do is seen and appreciated, as well as received for what it's meant to do in South Africa. So as artists, we're constantly looking for platforms to expand our audiences and to reach more audiences for the reasons that we do this work. And so to get this kind of accolade from the South African Music Awards is definitely something I would like in my life as an artist, to propel my work forward and to also, expand the work that I'm doing, because we invest a lot of money in our art, in the craft itself. It's expensive. And so it is important that we find ways where we can be exposed and ways that we can be, kind of reviewed and at least recognized, so that other people can move with the same credibility as well.
Speaking of, the amount of money that one puts into making this art, you're an independent artist, self-published as well. What does that look like in South Africa? I mean, a lot of people consider like the epitome of success being signed to someone and so forth. So what does it look like for you to be independent and self-published and an award winner?
Wow. In South Africa, which is, a small industry, there are ways to get around it. I think all of the industry players are challenged by the climate the music industry is in, whether you're a label or an independent artist. And that is, things are moving digitally and we're struggling more and more to access audiences. However, digital is meant to create like more access. And so I've been lucky enough to operate as a musician in this time as an independent artist, in a time where digital platforms are there to help you with distribution, where I don't need to have, not necessarily have distribution within a store locally. Do you know what I mean? People can access my music online.
What kind of person would listen to chapter 1? And also, why folklore? I feel like that's one thing that is not really popular yet, but it is an important instrument in terms of preserving culture and also documenting the stories of Black people. So why folklore?
Well, it was a personal journey first, but then one I want to share with like other fellow South Africans, other musicians in the world. When I started my music career, it was much easier to write in English. It was much easier to express myself in R&B, soul, funk, jazz. But, I didn't always feel naturally inclined to go a particular indigenous route, But as I performed these projects and traveled around the world, I kind of came to the realization that there is so much to be appreciated about what is actually ours and to be treasured by our origins and our culture and identity. And I started performing this music to share those stories, and then realized that there was so much a part of me as a young person growing up in the Transkei, that these songs had so much to teach me. So in exploring these songs and, learning a lot from our own writing styles, our own language, learning a lot from what is there to be interpreted and interpreting it and for myself, I believe that there was so much depth, richness, and wisdom in our music. And so I wanted to give it the value that I think it deserves. And as a young person, potentially people could think I'm a cool kid. I'm of this generation, that could potentially be taking this music for granted. And so, when it comes from this place, and originates from someone like me, it does beg for people to stand up and understand, like its purpose. So folklore is the exact definition of what that is: undocumented tales, proverbs, music, culture, beliefs by a people, but kind of passed on through word of mouth. And South Africa is so filled with so much of that content. And beyond being Xhosa, Mpondo, fusion, and Zulu cultures that are highly expressive, remember there's also so many other tribes with their own styles, with their own sounds, with their own languages to be celebrated. And that's just way too much intelligence to let sit over generations by just word of mouth. I was very confident in the work in terms of, like, once I'd settled on why it needs to go out and its purpose and the project series itself and how much more there is still to be done, and that fact that it's bigger than me. I want to do compilation series. I want to document stories that are beyond myself, So I'm just saying, this is a proof of concept. Please join the bandwagon. And so this award and getting it was important. I prayed for it almost every day so that, I could pitch to say, hey, can you join my bandwagon? Can you, kind of put a stamp on this and allow me and help me sell it? Because it's going to be sold to bigger platforms than the Samas. You know what I mean? At least by my view. And if I stay alive to do it, my plans are to go further and to try and access funding to heritage funding that can help us do this beyond myself.
Just in terms of, the times that we're in, as an artist, what has this lockdown taken from you? But at the same time, what has it afforded you, if it's brought any opportunities?
Yeah, that's a very good question. It's taken somewhat of the norm and the things that I rely on to keep my creative energy. I do believe that performance and performing it, with audiences and sharing our music is healing, not only to that audience, but to ourselves. Because we spend so much time creating, a lot of that work is well expressed when it's performed. And so we feed from that as well. And that's definitely something that's been taken away. When I had to do like a live stream show, I kind of brought my whole band because I missed that energy. I needed it for myself. And also it gets me up in the morning to think about, what am I going to do? How do we create this music? How do we tell this story? What's the set list? What's the order of the songs that we should perform? What should we wear? How do we clean this up? All those things, those engagement portals, those things channels that we need to share the art are very necessary for the art to continue. And I think I miss that creative energy and what it does for me. And particularly when I'm traveling, that's most of the time when I download like new music, or that's the time when I'm creating the most, because I'm open and I'm free and I'm completely tapped into that energy. And so it's been difficult in the first kind of months to create from an organic place. I've been creating more from sit down and do it, so there's music in my life. So I have kept, the benefit is that there's time. I've constantly been complaining that there hasn't been enough time to do certain things, deepening work like reading, researching, writing, and collaborating with others. And so I, put that at the forefront in the beginning of lockdown and accepted any collaborations to exercise my muscle, to share in the creative energy, to explore different spaces, just, so that there's no creative energy wasted. Yeah, so I've, been working on music almost every week of the last 4 months, whether it's like demos and sending back demos to other people, and then finally recording that music, writing from a place where you are sharing a message with someone else rather than it just being personal to you.
the physical will always be an important part of retail, especially in South Africa. Just the way our cities are laid out, just the way the customer is, we need to have a physical space. And especially as fashion enterprises, it is actually vital for people to be able to see our garments, see our quality, see our products, even if they end up purchasing it online or whatever. It is very important. I always say to people, a store is like a church. You know, one can pray at home and whatever, which is the online, but there needs to be that physical cathedral where people can see the stained glass windows, they can feel the ambiance, they can understand what the brand is about. And physical stores actually do quite well in this country, and they will be doing very well for the foreseeable future. So it only made sense, you know, but like I said before, we need to move together as a unit. And that has always been my vision, you know, to really create a new baseline for designers in this country. So that when there is financial upheaval, we don't all have to collapse and go back to working from home or selling from our boots of our cars. There can be a store that houses us. If you make beautiful product, no matter where you're making it, you can bring it to this beautiful curated space and have contact with the greatest customers. We will be encountering a boom after this. It will be like post-war. It will be like post-94. It will be like post-COVID, you know? And that time will come. And as Black businesses, we need to be ready for when that time comes. It's sad that most times we have to ride out the wave instead of being on it and going with the economy and going with the ups and downs. So that's what Africa Rise is about. It's about staying in the game even when things go up and down, because collectively we cover each other. You know, there's always somebody who's got more customers than the other. So, but collectively we have a home. The challenge has really just been demand, you know, but not desire. People love beautiful things. If anything, now people are more willing to purchase things that are special, things that they know where they come from, and things that have a brand story. So that's exactly where we come in.
It's always been there on the scene. What's key now is that Africans can make some money from it. I think that's the most important thing, you know. There's never been any doubt that we inspire people and that everything here is beautiful. I mean, I guess is this related to Beyonce? It's wonderful to see all the different African designers on her website available for sale. I think that's great. But for me, what's more important is us having a market over here, you know. As designers in Africa, we need to be available in Africa first and buying from each other first before the world is interested or not, or seeing us as a trend or not. We need to make a viable industry here. So I think Africa Rise as a project is very important because we got to last year launch in Sandton City, and for a designer like me who makes shoes and accessories, it was a big honor to be in the same space as Effie Mall and Thula Sindi and David Tlale and Milcolin and, you know, Loincloth and Ashes. We want a platform to be able to sell. Being on the magazines and being a trend on Instagram is wonderful, but what we actually want is to sell things and be available to our market, which is a really difficult thing in South Africa and around the continent. So I'm happy that we have a store and we have an online store, and now that we're downtown, which is my favorite place to be. But yeah, I think it's more than a trend. You have Tebe Magugu winning like the big Louis Vuitton prize, and Rich Munisi and Cindy Sokumalo available overseas, and that's wonderful. It's not a trend, we're actually part of the international fashion business.
That is the duality of this country, you know, and that is also, we need to re-educate ourselves about the city and its possibility. Like, we're close to the ABSA headquarters, we're close to SARS, we're close to the art galleries. There is such a beautiful vibe in the city. And there's people working and living in the city that deserve to see beautiful garments down the road from them, deserve to just go and shop there. European and American tourists love the city. They love the city. They don't want to be inside shopping centers. They don't want to be inside shopping malls. So there's a whole different narrative happening in the city. We've got arts on Main. We've got so much going on in the city. And it was only right for Africa Rise being the pulse of creativity to also be in the pulse of the city. It only made sense.
An arts incubator space for artistic disciplines across the disciplines, from film to music to visual arts to poetry and writing and theatre work. So the Centre for the Less Good Idea gets its title from a Tswana proverb. When you translate it from Setswana, it goes, if the good doctor can't cure you, find the less good doctor. And it's about process. It's about secondary thinking. It's about understanding, particularly for artists, that the first idea, the good idea that gets you into the space of working, often once it starts to manifest in the world, it falls apart. Parts of it crack. And in those moments, there can be very interesting things that happen. And the space based in downtown Johannesburg for the Less Good Idea is about supporting artists in those moments, in their processes, and very particularly in their collaborations. I'm curating this project called The Long Minute, which we started in early April, very much in response to the conditions of the current crisis and lockdown. Because the togetherness, the collaboration, the collective thinking that we so cherish at the centre has been very much crippled by the pandemic. It's devastating for artists, particularly those who work in performance and who work collaboratively to generate new work. So the invitation is then to artists to say, using what you have in the spaces that you currently occupy, that your camera, cell phone, whatever medium you have, film 52 seconds of what it is you are doing, thinking, how your current experience can be translated into the beginnings of an artwork, and send it through to us to open up a dialogue, to introduce you to other artists, to manifest into visual short form miniature works, minute-long works that we can share on a daily basis on our social media pages, as a way to continue a momentum and a dialogue between us, to find the connectivity between the experience that artists are having right now.
People are now developing new habits thanks to the pandemic and also because of the duration of the pandemic. What do you think our artscape is going to look like post-COVID? Because people are now getting used to watching shorter forms and watching things online. Do you think people will still be interested in coming back from this pandemic, sitting for longer duration art forms and going to physical spaces like theaters and museums, for example, to take all of this in?
Yeah. I think sadly we will be heavily impacted for quite some time. I think just the very act of sitting with many people in the same theatre will feel unsafe for quite some time still, perhaps years. And those things are a reality. We can rally against them and fight them and deny them, but they are a fact. And as artists, we need to be agile and malleable and think about alternative ways of making and showing right now. And of course, with it comes a mourning. It is devastating, and it doesn't feel like a situation you want to embrace. But even in our mourning and in our sorrow, there is a possibility for art and for making and for reflection. And I think we've got to embrace those things. one of the things that I've been very aware of as an artist myself, in dialogue with so many who are not artists at this time where there's such mass loss of jobs, is that many artists have lived their lives with the insecurity of knowing where their next paycheck comes from. And with that, it's given them an inventiveness and an agility and a real ability to not just rely on a kind of a system and a structure that works. And I think that in some ways, artists are perhaps in good stead for this brave new world. You know, what I would continue to say, and what the Centre is trying to do through a project like the Long Minute, is we need to hold together. We need to collaborate with one another. We need to lift each other up, and we need to continue to work and express collectively, using whatever tools are available to us to do that.
And that's that on that. Thanks for tuning in. And we'll be back next week, same time, same place, maybe. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.